Hello again, Struckwap. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Warhammer Chaosbane, and this one is for the soldier Konrad Vollen, and it's another rework of a previous build of mine. It's version 2.0 of the Pistolier's Herald soldier build. It's a fun build, but mind you, Chaos 9 is not the most optimal setting for it. I think this build shines in Chaos 8 and the lower difficulties, where you can just let yourself be more glass cannony and more squishy, but do more damage instead of focusing on the survivability. So this clip that you saw and the one you're seeing now is Chaos 9. Throughout the rest of the video you would be seeing only Chaos 8 content, Chaos 8 footage. So the build does a lot of damage, and here I'm using the damage reduction banner, but for Chaos 8 I'm using the damage banner. And here I was not using I think the passive when placing a banner, the Herald passive, but for the other content, for the Chaos 8, I was using that passive to get myself to do some more damage. So the build does a lot of damage with your spacebar as well, because first the set makes it slightly better, and then with the shield I'm using, which is the Pavise of Anger, I'm getting that shield to do more damage, like 400% more damage. So it is definitely a nice build to do. It's definitely a lot of possibilities for the build. It's flexible, you can replace some things, you can switch things around, you can do an alternative God skill tree version, which at the end of the next segment you would be able to see that. I did not test the alternative setup, I just made it on the fly, on the go when recording the next segment for the God skills. I just wanted to see how you can rework the God skills, and then based on that how you might want to replace some of the skills and passives. Definitely a good build for those who like to do damage and don't care whether it's Chaos 9 or Chaos 8 that they're doing. So here's the God skills for this build. You can rework them a little bit. There's different versions of doing that. I can try and quickly show you some ways you can rework them, but overall in the build I'm not going to be showing you 2 different or 3 different setups. So we are grabbing here Sigmar's Blessing, which we are using, and on the way up there we're grabbing the Mustard, which we are not using. In fact, that's one point I should not have spent. Now Divine Judgment Superior, you can decide to not use, you can even use the basic one. It's up to you, it's here, it's taken. You can either implement it in the build or not. So what we have here is damage, crit damage, and more damage, and the same here. And what we have here is I've taken those 3 points for damage over time, damage, and the cost reduction plus damage. If you don't think you need that cost reduction, you can grab some energy, damage, and armor piercing and damage, or you can just grab this crit damage, and Divine Judgment Mastered, which won't be bad if you want to implement it in a build. Now other options how you might want to build are something like this. Just let me quickly do that. So you might want to grab this crit damage, you might want to grab Sigmar's Bastion Superior, and then you can either go for this aura and then maybe spend some more points here and do something like that, and then use Blessings of the Brave, just the basic version, or maybe Blessings of the Brave Superior, then this one, and then maybe implement one of the Majestic Auras. You still have 1 point which you can probably spend on let's see what would be best. Probably some damage would be best. That's one version that you can do. And if you do that version, keep in mind you're replacing Sigmar's Bastion Mastered for Superior, which gives you some points. So let's just quickly try and show you the skill points for this setup if you wanna end up using it, just so you know that you've got it covered. So for example, you might want to remove Herald of the Empire if you want Majestic Aura, but that means you're losing 10% damage reduction, but you have the damage and the damage reduction at all time, which might be a better option, because you don't have to have the banner. Yeah, you're not gonna have 20% damage reduction, but you're getting the damage reduction even with the damage banner that way. And again, you're gonna have some spare points by using that, so that's 12 points you can use to upgrade Taunt to the Mustard, and then maybe upgrade this one, although I never use that skill here. It's just a fewer. You can try and put another skill there for mobility, such as shielded charge. In fact, it might work well. So that's your setup for the alternative god skills. Now let's go back to the regular setup, just so I can show you the skills for it in the next segment. And here are the skill points I was using for the majority of the recorded footage. I mean, you can see that the recorded footage on the Tower of Chaos was Chaos 9, took up a couple of Chaos 9 runs. The other runs I recorded on Chaos 8, and for the Prague I started slightly differently, then reworked the skills, and then eventually I ended up using this one for the Siege and for the known invasion relic hunts. So basically, let's go through all the skills. Defensive strike, this is just a fewer, as I said. You might want to put whatever, you might want to upgrade it or use any of those. Here 3 on that side or 3 on that side, you've got the 4 points, so you can spend them. Pistolier heroic, main damage source, bread and butter, good damage, armor piercing, chance to repel, to stun, so pretty nice. And then Sigmar's blessing gives you block chance and gives you damage and gives you energy regeneration, and since it gives you block chance, it also gives you damage via indestructible, which gives you damage based on your block chance. Then Banner of the Empire could be replaced for Banner of the Order, and Banner of the Empire would give you damage, cooldown reduction and energy cost reduction, which goes well with Pistolier. The other one would give you damage reduction, and since we're using Herald of the Empire, this gives you 20% more damage when using Banner of the Empire, and if you're using Banner of the Order, that's another 20% damage reduction instead of damage. So if you want survivability and you want to try pushing Chaos 9, which I don't suggest for this build, even on the easier difficulties, if you're having trouble getting damage reduction, you can try and just switch to Banner of the Order and get that sorted. Taunt Superior, this can actually be the basic taunt. I'm only using Superior because it gives more energy gain. Ideally, if I had one more point, I would keep using Taunt Mustard for that extra up to 20% damage from the 10 stacks. But basically what Taunt Superior gives us is up to 20% block chance, which would give us more damage via indestructible. And then it gives us counterattack damage, which we don't really care about, not on this build, and then some energy gain, which is nice. So feel free to downgrade it if you want just the energy gain and block chance and you don't need 6%, but 4% energy gain would be fine for you. Now Sigmar's Bastion gives us crit chance and crit damage, and it also can stun enemies with those beams. There's another way of playing this, and this is to heal yourself, but for that you're gonna need a Thrice-Blessed Copper Medal, which is this one. If you wanna play it tanky and healy, you can use Thrice-Blessed Copper Medal to heal yourself for 20% each time you use the beam. I prefer using Medal of Destiny on Pistolier, which makes you take 10% more damage, but far off enemies take 50% more damage. So if you want more survivability, you could switch the amulet to the other one. Now, Duelist Chain Reaction is great when you're using skills with cooldown, and right now Taunt is the one you might want to be using to keep that Duelist Chain Reaction up. Unless you switch to something else instead of Defensive Strike, but you don't have the point to add something like Shielded Charge, so that's gonna be tough, or Justice of the Empire, but keep that in mind. If you find one point, you can add Justice of the Empire or Shielded Charge over here in this slot and have two skills with cooldown. Right now you only have that one, so so Taunt is the only way of proccing Duelist Chain Reaction. And Veteran's Chain Reaction is the other thing that makes Pistolier do 100% more damage after using skill with cooldown, and also using that one on an enemy would remove this. Right now, because I haven't hit an enemy, I don't remove that chain reaction there. But once you hit an enemy, you're gonna see it kind of does that extra damage, but you lose the buff until you use a skill with cooldown again. And since we have to be keeping the duelist chain reaction, we would be proccing this pretty often with taunt. So kind of that's gonna be some of the rotation: taunt, then some pistoliers, then taunt, some pistoliers, and in the meantime keeping up the Sigmar's Blessing and Sigmar's Bastion, and keeping the banner underneath your feet when you can. This also reduces the energy consumption of that spell, the energy cost, so it's pretty nice to reduce the energy cost of Pistolier with this. Now, Blessings of the Brave gives you crit chance based on block chance and crit damage based on block damage, but it also reduces the block chance and block damage bases by 50%. So keep that in mind whether you want to go for it. I think it's still worth it for that extra crit damage. And as I already mentioned, what this does, damage or damage reduction based on the banner you're using. So in the God skill segment, if you skipped it, you might want to go into it to see an alternative setup for alternative God skills and skills. And here is also what I was using for the legendary ranks when recording the footage. I think just for the Tower of Chaos I didn't have legendary punishment for the Chaos 9 runs, but then when I moved to Chaos 8 I removed some chances, like I removed 5% here, 5-10% here, 5-10% here, just to have enough points to invest into legendary punishment. And ideally you would start with legendary reinforcement. Now when you do harder content, when you think you need the damage reduction, invest into endurance. If you've got this one at 30-35% chance and 100 power, and you have some spare levels, if you don't need the damage reduction, go for punishment and stack the damage from here with the damage from here. If you feel like you don't need that much damage and need damage reduction, go for endurance rather than crushing. And then eventually you can spend some points into all of those. Even legendary healing is amazing to help you heal when using Pistolier. So for the harder content you would be using healing if you try to push harder content, but I definitely don't suggest using this build for Chaos 9 or 10, so up to Chaos 8 should be fine even without the legendary healing, but consider using the healing if you feel like it works well for you. So that's it for the legendary ranks. Next I will show you the items I suggest using with this build. And here is the segment where I show you what items I suggest using and what rows you want on those. First you want the Skaven Killer or Vrnik set, which gives you the heroic Pistolier. It increases the range of shield smash and makes SWOT enemies take 100% more damage. So if you have things that can help you SWO, you would definitely want to be using that. And here is the shield smash ability, so you can see what exactly it does. Perform a shield bash that has a chance to stun enemies, automatically consume a shield charge to make the effect more powerful. Charges steadily regenerate if at least 2 enemies are hit, damage taken is reduced. Your energy regenerates for each enemy hit from every attack. So basically you might wanna do that every now and then, spam some taunts, do that. Have your banner, have this and this, and then when the enemies are nearby you could use this, because you can see how wide the effect of this shield smash is. Pretty decent to use it. And since we are gonna be using taunt and we're trying to not get hit, unlike the So On set where we're using Blade of Vengeance, where we're trying to get hit and trying to get the blocks done to get that 200 damage and 30% damage reduction, we're a bit more squishy, so we're gonna be using taunt to make the enemies that come near us give us damage buff, give us a block chance which gives us more damage, and to give us energy, and to also kind of give us damage if we are using the mastered version, which we can if we do some changes like removing Herald of the Empire and putting something like a Divine Judgment, or maybe putting something like padded armor, or maybe even putting something like where was it, Bastion against corruption. This one, the superior, then we would have enough points for the mastered taunt. So overall Grudge Settler may not be 200% extra damage, but it is 100, and it is there to enemies that we taunt, so it's better than some of the other options we've got. I'd much rather prefer to have that right now, rather than relying on getting hit from a Blade of Vengeance to get the buff, or getting the Healing Scepter, or getting the Magnus's Gift. This seems like the best choice for this setup. Then we want Pavise of Anger because it makes the Shield Smash and the defensive strike skills do 400% more damage. This is actually why I put defensive strike here, so that if I end up using this skill, this fewer skill which I don't use, at least it would be defensive strike to do more damage. And as you see, using an archetype ability, charge repels enemies. So not bad, good synergy with the Skaven Killer set using Pavise of Anger. If you don't have one, just use whatever shield you've got with good rolls until you get one of those with good rolls. Medal of Destiny, far off enemies take more damage, but you take 10% more too. Then if you want more damage, Purple Signet Ring is nice. If you don't have a good Purple Signet Ring, you can try using something else, like Old Ring of Resonance is not bad to stun the enemies when you use Taunt, just to help you have some breathing room. Another thing that could help would be a Resurgence Ring, to give you more HP and more healing. Another thing that could help you would be, there's a ring that keeps draining your energy, but gives you 50% damage reduction. I've not tested it. I think the energy drain would be a bit too much to handle, unless you're using a ring like that one, and maybe an amulet that helps us regenerate energy, like where was it, the one with the cooldowns, this one. Then maybe such a ring would go well as a combo. I would avoid using the burning, the Ring of Burning Zeal. I would avoid using Shadows. I would avoid using Dexterity unless you want to focus on Defensive Strike, but that's a whole other build there. Then there's things like, where was that, the one for damage reduction? I don't think I've got it here, maybe here. This one, collecting a Bloodlust Orb grants you more HP and decreases damage for a few seconds. So this one won't be bad if you want damage reduction. This one also won't be bad because you can sacrifice some damage. The Pistolier does a lot of damage anyways. So if you want damage reduction, that's a good source for the price of 40% damage. If you think you can handle it, then that's worth it. But as you can see, I was using Purple Signet Ring and Signet Ring of No. The No and the Purple Signet seem to be working well for this setup, giving me that extra damage and cooldowns, and giving me that health restored and energy gain. Now, what rolls would you be willing to get on all of your items? On the helmet, first of all, cooldown reduction is nice, so we can spam Taunt. Then you want a good amount of HP, a good amount of armor, and after that you're looking at things like cost reduction and energy and resistance to damage over time to fill up the slots. Here almost the same, except you remove the cooldown, so priority number 1 would be HP, then armor, then cost reduction, energy, resistance to damage over time, and things like that. Then here again the exact same as the chest. HP priority number 1, armor priority number 2, and number 3 would be probably cost reduction, energy, and then you have damage, resistance to damage over time, health regeneration, and other things to fill the slots. The same for the boots, but on the boots you might want movement speed, so priority number 1 HP, number 2 would be armor and speed, and then the same rules apply for the fuelers as before. Probably cost reduction would be the best fueler you can get, and here you can get damage, crit damage, or damage over time. I would suggest stay away from damage over time if you can, you don't need it on this build. So priority number 1 here is damage, priority number 2 HP and armor after that, and crit damage probably should be after you have good damage, good HP and armor. You should try and probably get some crit damage here, and then the rest is again the fillers like cost reduction, energy, resistance to damage over time, health regeneration, etc. Now on the amulet you can get armor, on the rings you can't. Anything you can get on the ring, you can get it on an amulet. I think here the priority would be crit chance number 1, damage, cooldown reduction and HP I would put as equally important as number 2. And then for the fuelers you might want things like armor piercing or armor, or crit damage or health drain. Health drain is amazing, it would go a long way if you stack a lot of it from many sources. Help you have that little bit of extra survivability. Then for the rings the exact same things except you remove the armor, so priority number 1 crit chance, priority number 2 would be cooldown damage and HP equally important, and then armor piercing, health drain, crit damage equally important as fuelers. So now we move on to the sword. The sword cannot get crit chance, but it gets double the crit damage a shield can get. So on the sword priority number 1 would be damage, cooldown reduction, because the cooldown reduction on this one is much higher than on this one, kind of like a double one. So you want damage and cooldown reduction highest priority. Priority number 2 would be HP, and then priority number 3 would be things like crit damage. Then you want after that health drain as priority number 4, and armor piercing equally important as health drain. It's worth it, depends on what you prefer. You have plenty of armor piercing, so you can probably make the health drain a bigger priority. And then damage over time try to avoid, so ideally on this sword I would replace the damage over time with some sort of armor piercing, or maybe something like cost reduction won't be a bad choice either. For now I don't think I need that much cost reduction, so armor piercing probably would be the best replacement there for the damage over time. The rest is top notch. So here you want priority number 1 crit chance, priority number 2 would be damage, cooldown and HP. Equally important, or maybe you can put priority number 2 damage and priority number 3 would be cooldown and HP. And then of course you want very high block chance and block damage, and I don't think you are gonna get a shield without block chance and block damage. And then for the fueler slot, which in this case would be my damage over time and energy, on those places you would want to get things like health drain, armor piercing, crit damage, you know, the usual things. Even cost reduction is not that bad of a pick, better than damage over time or energy. And that's pretty much it for the rows. When it comes to the blessings, I strongly suggest going for the damage ones. So this is the balanced version with 6000 HP and with 4060 damage. If you want 420 more damage but to lose 2000 HP, that's the option. You have 4000 HP, 4480 damage, and if you want on this one to get 8000 HP but lose 420 damage, you do this. So 3640 damage and 8000 HP. So I would suggest try to get at least 300,000 HP if you can, or close to 300,000 HP. So rework them, see what HP you feel comfortable with. If you think 250,000 is not enough, increase it to 300,000. If you think 300,000 is not enough, try to get it higher. Of course, you're gonna need items with a lot of HP like this one, and green items to get that much HP. So at first you might want to start with this one, not having as much damage. Then you might want to move into this one, and eventually when you have more HP you can experiment and move into this one. And I don't think you want to be using anything else. If you're farming easy content and you want crit chance and you want to be using the medal of the exemplar, let's see if I've got it to show you where it is. Probably don't have it here, but if you're using medal of the exemplar to farm, which gives you up to 500 wood quality when you have 80% crit chance, then you would want to get crit chance items. And crit chance items you can get with let me show you. You get them if you do something like this. So this gives you more crit damage and less damage, and the better option would be this one. Crit chance remains the same, up to 2% per piece. So this is the option I would suggest for crit chance farming on easier difficulty with Medal of the Exemplar. But now with upgraded relicants you really don't even need to bother. You can just change the gear before looting the chests. If you wanna cheese it, finish a upgraded relicant, then replace your regular gear with the crit chance items, put the Medal of the Exemplar, all items blessed with crit chance, so you can max it out, and then you get that extra 500. But whether it's 10,000, 10,500, 11,000, it's still an overkill wood quality, so it's not gonna make that much of a difference, honestly. But feel free to take that advice if you want it. Now let's show you some more gameplay to top the video off. And here is the part where I show you folks some more gameplay and talk about how to play the build, what rotations you might want to be doing and so on. As you can see, this build can reach very high numbers of damage when you focus on the damage aspects of the build rather than the damage reduction ones. I've managed to do 97 million solo, and I think that was without legendary punishment, the one that gives you damage. So that was a few days, like a week or two ago, when I was recording footage for what changed in the god skills or for the patch. I can't remember exactly when, but I'm pretty sure somewhere there was that 97 million crit. While recording this, I think I got 79, 81, 82, 83 million hits few times. Again, without maxed out legendary punishment, and slightly reworked version of the build than what I was using before. What you want to do is find some enemies, plant your banner, do the taunt, make sure you've got the blessing and the other god skill on you, and then just start using Pistolier, then taunt, Pistolier, then taunt, or taunt 2-3 Pistoliers, taunt 2-3 Pistoliers, and when the enemies are nearby you might even use your spacebar to deal with the trash mobs, because it's better. If they're close, you're not gonna hit that many with Pistolier, because you see how it's cone now, and the cone is pretty tight close to you. But when the enemies are nearby and there's trash enemies, if you use spacebar, you're probably gonna cover like 120 degree arc or whatever, maybe even 180 degree arc with that semicircle shape of the spacebar skill. And if you need damage reduction, you can always change the banners. As you saw in the skill segment and the god skill segment, things can be reworked to fit a different playstyle, to experiment with the build. When it comes to bosses, you would want to be moving a little bit more, so maybe place the banner strategically to allow you to like rotate in circles around the center of the banner. If you manage to burst the boss before they can hit you, that's probably the best you can do. So if you go prepared into the boss room, have your 2 god skills on you, taunt him as soon as possible to make him take more damage from the sword, plant the banner and just start spamming Pistolier, then that should probably be the best course of action. Otherwise you might wanna stay a little bit further and avoid getting hit until you're ready to burst. So that's it, I guess, for the rotations. If you've enjoyed this video and want to be notified for when I upload more content like this for this game or other wooters of the hack and slash or shooter wooter variety, you could subscribe to my channel to get those content updates, and you can get notified by clicking on the bell button as well. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope everything was clear. If something wasn't, share your comments, questions, etc. in the section below. Keep it cool, folks. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.